Welcome to Now in the 90s, where we look at the game releases of 30 years ago today. This week, an amazingly named superhero, a great Disney game, and the next Sim game. Hi, I'm your host Jared, and today is February 17th, 1993. Punching his way onto the Super Nintendo was Sonic Blast Man, released this week in 1993. Sonic Blast Man is a side-scrolling beat-em-up. Play as the hero Sonic Blast Man and use his blue boxing gloves to punch every single enemy that comes your way. As you punch enemies, you'll be able to grab them and do special throw attacks, and you can also activate a screen-clearing ultimate punch. But the best move is definitely this hilarious one-armed throw. Sonic Blast Man was published by Taito and is based on the 1990 arcade game of the same name. However, the arcade game is radically different. That game is a first-person punching simulator. The cabinet has a big boxing target, and you defeat different stages of enemies and obstacles by actually punching the target as hard as you can. So for the Super Nintendo, they just made it a beat 'em up. That's not the only change they had to make for the North American release. All female enemies were replaced with men because of Nintendo of America's strict censorship guidelines. And it's only one player, and it's pretty slow. Still, reviews were generally positive. Nintendo Power featured it with a 2-page spread, and GamePro magazine kept giving it high remarks. It did well enough that it eventually got a sequel with Sonic Blast Man 2 in 1994. The sequel's like 100 times better, and I've already talked about that game extensively in a separate video that I did a long time ago, but feel free to check that out. I'll put a link in the description. Another Disney game from Capcom for the Game Boy, released in February 1993, was Darkwing Duck. Darkwing Duck is a side-scrolling action platformer. Play as DW, run, jump, and shoot your gas gun to take out numerous enemies. You can also grab onto certain ledges to reach higher platforms and collect extra special weapons. Blast through 6 different levels, which you can pick at a stage select screen, each with a boss fight at the end with a familiar foe. Darkwing Duck is a game based off the hit animated cartoon of the same name, which ran from 1991 to 1992.
The life of a crime fighter is a dirty job.
Especially when his sidekick borrows his cape to wax the car.
But someone's got to do it.
Just who are you? What do you want? And who the heck is your tailor?
He's Darkwing Duck, doing good. While looking great.
Weekday mornings at 8 on Fox 39.
He was essentially a parody of other superheroes like Batman, the Green Hornet, and Dick Tracy. Darkwing Duck for the Game Boy is a port of the NES game of the same name. It's pretty impressive for a Game Boy port, as aside from the obvious colors, not much is really lost in the transition. It still looks good, plays great, and has some bopping tunes. But also when you look at this game, you can't help but think, this is just Mega Man. And you're basically correct. The gameplay is very similar with the jumping and shooting and the stage select. The excellent music of the game was also done by the same composer who also did Mega Man 3 and 4. However, unlike Mega Man, you can duck. Get it? Darkwing Duck is yet another stellar Disney game from Capcom, right alongside Chip and Dale, Little Mermaid, and DuckTales. Nintendo Power featured it in their February 1993 issue and scored it with an average of a 3.5 out of 5. The Game Boy version would never be re-released for anything else. However, you can play the NES version through the Disney Afternoon Collection, which also has Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers 1 and 2, DuckTales, and the Tailspin NES games available for download on the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and on Steam. You likely know of at least one Sim game, but what about another? Released this week in 1993 was SimEarth for the Super Nintendo. SimEarth is a simulation game where you do your best to take care of planet Earth. Alter the landscape, take care of all the animals that evolve, even adjust things like the atmosphere. After all the tweaks, see how the planet grows and changes for billions of years. There are also a couple of scenarios you can select, like letting you terraform other planets. SimEarth for the SNES is a port of the same game from the PC, which originally released in 1990. And the original game was complex. Like, really complex. The instruction manual included with the PC version was 220 pages. There are tons of buttons and sliders, adjustments, tweaks, numbers, stats, big words that kids didn't know the definition of. Thankfully, it is another game that you can play using the SNES mouse. but it's less a game and more of an aquarium. You basically make some changes, let it slowly play out, and see what weird icons you end up with on the planet's surface. There really isn't a whole lot to do. Remember in grade school, we had to take a 2-liter bottle of soda, cut it in half, filled it with dirt, and then planted a bean in there, and then called it an ecosystem? It's basically that, the video game. It's amazing that they got it all to fit on an SNES cartridge. In fact, they barely did. It's possible to get the state of your planet to be so wide and have so much stuff in it, the game cannot save it all. So instead, it'll actually warn you that it needs to delete some things in order to save your game. I played this before and I had no idea what was going on. Even now, I still don't really know what's happening. I don't get what's supposed to be fun about it, and it may be my least favorite sim game. It's somehow reviewed pretty well, though I'm convinced it's because most reviewers didn't want to look dumb from a game they didn't understand. SimEarth would eventually get ported to the TurboGrafx CD and the Sega CD, though that one was only in Japan. SimEarth would also then be put onto the Wii's Virtual Console, but not the SNES one, the TurboGrafx CD one. Probably because that one had a cutscene where the Earth talks to you. As for everything else, here's Editor Dylan.
Another Disney game released on the Game Boy this week was The Little Mermaid. Like Darkwing Duck, it's got that signature Capcom feel to it, but is also reminiscent of Bubble Bobble and Echo the Dolphin, I guess. Also like Darkwing Duck, it's a carbon copy of the NES game, but I think it works better on the handheld due to its short length. The Genesis had G-Lock Air Battle. G-Lock? Glock? Probably G-Lock. What does G-LOC stand for, you ask? Well, according to the title screen, it means loss of consciousness by G-force. So really, it should be Lock-Bg. Air Battle. It's a fun flight combat game with fast action and multiple perspectives. It also did banter with other members of your squad before Star Fox. And unlike Top Gun, the landing sequence is straightforward for once. I'm just happy to finally play a flight sim that doesn't struggle to get a frame rate in the double digits. Speaking of games that make me happy, how about a sports game? The Genesis version of Championship Bowling released this week. I covered the Super Nintendo version a bit ago, but the Genesis version is kinda different. It's not bad, it's just, I don't know, a different vibe to it, but I think I prefer the look and sound of the SNES version. Am I a Nintendo fanboy and I just never realized it? Nah, that's impossible. Well, let's move on to the greatest console that could do no wrong with Shanghai 2 Dragon's Eye for the Super Nintendo. It's just Mahjong, but it's the Mahjong where you try to find all the matching pieces, and not the Mahjong that is literally the only reason I'll never 100% any Yakuza game. Maybe Shanghai 2 has both versions, but I couldn't tell you because I only play the matching one. Don't judge, it helps me relax. 90s media is notorious for running a theme into the ground, like the prehistoric era or mutated humanoid animals. One premise that was constantly used but is rarely brought up are all the little things, the small things. Teeny tiny creatures, shrunken down people that could survive for days eating just one cookie. Well, Harley's humongous adventure pulled from that infinite well of possibilities to bring you a kitchen, a backyard, a bathroom, a bookshelf. You see what I mean? We basically already covered this game, only it was called Kung Food. The only difference is this one adopts that digitized claymation aesthetic that was all the rage in 1993. Shout out to November 17th. If I had to rank all games in the side-scrolling platformer genre, I don't know how high I would place Harley, but I do know he'd be right between Green Dog and Lester the Unlikely. 8 games released on these 3 consoles this week in 1993. Of course, there were miniature things before the 90s like Smurfs or The Littles, but I blame Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, which happens to be the only movie to make me cry because of an ant. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna try finding my old Mighty Max toys. No, they're not Polly Pockets, they're just pink Mighty Max toys.
Pleasure as always, Dylan. Sonic Blast Man is this week's biggest value gainer. A loose cartridge still goes for about $50, and a complete one goes for about $175. Game Boy games tend to be either dirt cheap or wicked expensive. Darkwing Duck is the latter. A loose copy is worth about $40, while one with the box and manual is nearly $350. And no one cares about SimEarth. You can find the game for less than $10, and a complete in box one is only $35. And that's it for today. Next week, a movie adaptation, a cartoon adaptation, and a cinematic platformer. I'm your host, Jared, and this was Now in the 90s. Thank you so much for watching Now in the 90s. I want to thank some recently new patrons like Jason Oloa, Ryan Smith, and Minnesota Jones. Please like the video and leave a comment down below, and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you already are a subscriber, thank you so much for watching this show every single Friday. If you're in a position to help support the channel, please check out our Patreon. There's a link in the description down below. It really is the lifeblood of the show. Now, I mean it when I say that Sonic Blast Man 1 wasn't really anything special, but as a kid, I did rent Sonic Blast Man 2 a lot, and this one's at least 2-player co-op and way faster. Check out Sonic Blast Man 2. You can ignore the first one.